Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Science fiction, the great teacher, the great inspiration. It helps us see the endless possibilities of life. So let's be inspired together.
We are all explorers, driven to know what's over the planet, what's beyond our own shores.
Hey everybody, it's Commodore Jeff.
Yes, I see you, kitty.
So, I finally got a chance to watch Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I bought the movie on the internet so I could stream it at home. And you know, it's nice watching these movies at home because you can pause it when you want and, you know, do what you got to do. And so anyway, I'll tell you, it wasn't a bad film. Okay, despite everything that's been said about it, from the negative people here on YouTube to, you know, what critics in the mainstream were saying about it, the film was not bad. I honestly have to admit that the movie was entertaining. It kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat through some of the action sequences. It does kind of bring back a lot of memories and stuff of Indiana Jones movies past. But you know, by itself, the film is really good. I thought it was a really good movie. I thought it was better than the Indiana Jones 4, okay, but this film was really good. I just don't see what the hell the matter was with this film, as far as the critics concerned were over it. Phoebe Waller-Bridge did a very good job as the sort of foil for Indiana Jones. She plays the goddaughter of Indiana Jones, and she's got this wild streak in her, like Indiana Jones had when he was younger. She takes risks and stuff like that, but what she does is she does all these things for money. Okay, she's smart like Indiana Jones when it comes to archaeology and history. She knows a lot, knows everything, because her father, which was a friend of Indiana, was her teacher, essentially, like. And so she excelled at that, and so she goes around getting artifacts and then selling it to people for big bucks, you know. Whereas Indiana Jones likes to get these things and put them in a museum, as he always talks about. It belongs in a museum. She rather would just take that and profit for herself. So that makes her more selfish, okay? At the same time, she has no problems about using people along the way to get what she wants, even her godfather, okay? So in a way, she kind of reminds me of Marion in the first Indiana Jones film, where she was like really, you know, roughhouser and stuff like that, and everything. So she's kind of got that kind of a character spunk to her. So it was kind of nice seeing that, you know, that kind of how do you say it? This, you know, friction between the two of them through the movie and stuff like that. Made it more fun, because, you know, if you got somebody that always agrees with Indiana Jones, I mean, it doesn't really make much fun. But if you got somebody that's always there to you know, try to get their point across by any means necessary or something, and pisses him off along the way. I mean, it's kind of like what Indiana Jones and his father was like in The Last Crusade. You know, his father was different and always kind of pissing off Indiana Jones in some way or other, you know. So yeah, it's kind of like that. So they kept to that kind of thing that made the past Indiana Jones movies fun, is by pairing him up with somebody that gets under his skin, you know, all the time. And how can I say this? They put some elements in the character that are what I call them reflections of his past. Okay, like things where him and his wife got divorced because they lost their son in a war. I guess the Korean War, or I suppose, according to the timeline that this is in. And so, you know, he's dealing with that. You know, it's no different than, you know, when he had bad relations with his father, okay? When, you know, family life for him is really not that great, you know, in any of these films when he talks about it. You know, he's sort of a loner all the time. And it's no different in this film. But he does kind of develop some kind of a connection with his goddaughter by the end of the film. He just doesn't completely trust her, you know, because, you know, she's somebody that'll steal something out of his house if it's got money value in it and just go with it, you know. So, I mean, by the end, you kind of see that the two of them kind of have a bond that's kind of grown, you know, and it leads to like another part of his life getting patched back together again, you know, which was good, and it was kind of nice too, the way they did it, you know, at the end. What else? The time travel thing was pretty interesting, because I remember they used this kind of time travel method in a previous movie all the way back in the late 70s, early 80s, called Final Countdown, where this nuclear aircraft carrier had gone through some sort of a rip in time and ended up in the past during World War II. Okay, they kind of used that again in this film, which made the Dial of Destiny seem a little more plausible, I guess, as far as the story goes. It wasn't some kind of device that sends you back in time. It tells you where you can go to go back in time. You know, it seeks out portals that open and close, I guess, at random in the world, and it knows where they are and it directs you to them, and you just, you know, go through it. And you end up in the past. Depending on where you're trying to go, the calculations have to be precise. Okay, so yeah, they end up in the past, and in the movie they're not there very long, and they end up back in the future. So a lot of people were pissed off in this movie about how, you know, because they let scenes of this thing leak out to the public, and one of those scenes was Indiana Jones asking Phoebe to leave him behind in the past. Okay, I don't know if you've seen that or not or what, but it's out there. That was one of the scenes that was leaked, and Phoebe punches him so that way she can take him back with her into, you know, into the future. Well, what they left out of that scene was very important, because if you look at it on the surface, people got pissed, saying, well, you know, who the hell is she to just go slug somebody in the, you know, like, how many times has Indiana Jones done that to get his way, you know? You know, but she does that to him, and they got pissed. But what they're not thinking is that there was a reason behind why she did what she did, okay? It wasn't just selfishness that she slugged him and knocked him up, bring him back. It's the same old argument you hear in every time travel story. You can't leave something behind from the future because it could change the past. And Indiana Jones is one of those elements that they could not leave behind, no matter how much he begged and pleaded with Phoebe to want to stay. He couldn't stay there. He didn't belong there. Okay? His knowledge of the future would change something in the past, you know, and wreck everything. Okay? So she had to take him along. And that was a perfectly logical move for her to make. You know, she was very concerned about the future not being there when she tried to go back because he wanted to stay in the past, you know, and be selfish about it, you know, and she wouldn't let him. So, you know, when you look at this film here, the whole film, and don't just take pieces of it like a lot of these critics did. Okay, they were going along when the studio would leak out parts of this film, they would go along and react to that as it was coming out in parts. They didn't even see the whole film yet before they were already out there condemning the damn thing. Okay, like I said, I've said this before. I'm gonna reserve my opinion of this film until after I've seen it, and that's the reason why, is because those clips, those trailers, their teasers, they are so misleading. Okay, they are so misleading. They don't tell you the whole story, and it's not right to make an opinion about a film before it's come out and you can see the whole thing. Okay, that was their mistake, and they deliberately got people pissed off about this movie before they even went out and saw it. You know, if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, the score on there is steadily going up on the audience side. Okay, it's still going up because people are watching this now because they didn't go to the theater to watch it originally. They're watching it, they're renting it at home, watching it on TV. Okay, and they're finding out that the movie wasn't bad. Okay, they're finding out the film wasn't bad. So you see, all that hoopla that they did caused Disney to lose out on ticket sales. But if they had left that, if they'd have kept their mouth shut and just let this film come out and stand, okay, it probably would have been the hit of the summer instead of Barbie. Okay, and people that seen Barbie said that it was a dumb movie. Okay, but yet it's being lauded as the best summer movie. Okay, but the truth of it is it, you know, it wasn't. Okay, and the better film was Indiana Jones. Okay, Indiana Jones was the best movie out of the summer, in my opinion. In my humble opinion, it was. Okay, now I'll go as far as to say that the tone of the film is different than the other, the other films. Okay, but there also, again, reason for that, because we're talking about an older Indiana Jones, a guy like his father was in The Last Crusade, a man who's got regrets and carrying some burdens and looking at the end of his career, you know, in school and stuff. And so, you know, he feels like, you know, he's got no purpose. You know, he's too old to be doing these kind of adventures. Okay, even though he ends up getting back into them. Okay, he's too old to get back into that shit. And they remind you that at the very beginning of the film when they show Indiana Jones when he was like just before The Last Crusade. Okay, that's why they de-aged him for like the first 30 minutes of the film, because they were trying to give you a backstory to remember as they went into the rest of the story, which was important now. Okay, and they did a very good job, by the way, of de-aging Harrison Ford. I got to say, it was pretty damn convincing. You couldn't see any discrepancies there, you know, with and everything, and they really did a good job. If you see it, you're going to like how they did that. Okay, so anyway, it was important because the villain he faced in the beginning of the film is going to come back at the second half of this of the film, and they're going to spar off again. Okay, towards the end. It's a crucial point, okay, in the film. And so what it is some guy who was in the Nazis. So it's bringing the Nazi element back into this genre again, okay? And a guy's attempt to try to change the outcome of the war in the United States between U.S. and Germany. He wants to go back and assassinate Hitler because Hitler made too many fucking mistakes, and he wants to go back, kill Hitler, and take over the war so that the Nazis win. Okay, that's why he's seeking that dial of destiny. It's got a name, but I can't remember what to call it. But that device. Okay, he's looking for that. He believes that it can bring you back in time. And it's a good story. I mean, yeah, I know it's different than like the Ark of the Covenant and the Cup of Christ and all that other stuff. And a lot of the fans didn't like Indiana Jones 4 because it dealt with aliens and UFOs and stuff like that. But at the same time, you know, if you look at the Indiana Jones Chronicles and stuff, you know, everything that they went after was something unique, okay? So there's no, like, it has to be something, a religious thing or something like that, okay, or some ancient thing like the blood of Kali or some goddamn thing. It doesn't have to be like that all the time. It can be something different, you know, some old ancient device, you know, that has some kind of mystical power. I mean, we saw that with the Ark of the Covenant when they opened the lid and all this energy come out and demons and everything. What makes that any less science fiction than Aliens? Okay, you know what I'm saying? So the complaint about the you know, the plot in this movie really has no merit. Okay, every Indiana Jones thing isn't always about the fucking thing that they're going after. It's about the adventure, the action, you know, and all that stuff. Okay. And so, you know, this was, I like the idea that they did. If you watch the story, it doesn't sound so like outlandish. Okay, if you watch the story, watch the movie rather. Okay, it's not so outlandish the way they handle it in there, and I really liked it. I'm telling you, I can't praise it enough. I mean, I give it 4 out of 5 stars. It's that good to me. It, you know. And if it's going to be the last Indiana Jones film, I'm glad, because that's it. To me, that ends on a higher note than the last film did. And I'm not saying Indiana Jones 4 was sucked, okay? No, I did like the 4th one. It wasn't as good. I'd say 3.5 stars for Indiana Jones 4. This one gets all 4 stars, in my opinion, okay? And so, you know, where was it lacking? Well, I've been trying to think of that after I've seen it last night. I think in some respect, it might have lacked a little bit in the middle of the film, where they, you know, where they're constantly being chased by the villain. And even though the scenes were action, there were points in the film where it just kind of slowed right down, you know, where, you know, you're kind of like, what's going to happen, you know, or anything, and there's a lot of dialogue, okay, and you know, maybe in those parts, you know, they could have done, you know, kind of, you know, chopped it up a little bit, you know, to get closer, get more to the point. But you know, I can't really say that there was anything about it that was really like, you know, I didn't like, you know. Like I said, there was just that normal, like in almost every movie you watch, there's always these points in the film that kind of slow it right down, because they got to give you information to carry on into the last act of the film, okay? And sometimes they do this okay, and sometimes they take too long to do that. And I think, you know, maybe there they could have changed it a little bit. I remember they said that they were reshooting scenes for Indiana Jones 5. I remember saying that in my previous video. If they did a good job changing whatever the hell they had to change, because it seemed to flow pretty well all the way from start to finish. So I don't have any complaints about that. I like that they brought Sala back in there. He now he lives in the United States because Indiana Jones helped him get out of the desert, and now he's got a family and everything. So he's still there, and Marion's still around because she makes an appearance at the end, and but you know, it's like I said, I can't think of anything offhand that would say that it really slowed the film or did something you know, continuity wise, didn't damage anything, okay? Because like I said, the beginning, the first 30 minutes, its point in the timeline is somewhere in between maybe the Last Crusade or just after the Last Crusade. You know what I'm saying? It's right around that period there. It's like where, well, actually the Nazi war's still going, so it might be just right around that area. So it's sort of at the end of the Nazi war, which probably would have been after the Last Crusade. That might have been one of the other adventures he had just after that. where he was going after that dial. So in the beginning, the timeline is there, and then we skip ahead to the 1960s. And that's funny there when you see him in the 1960s and you see how the society was, how it's changed, and how it gets on his nerves. Because now you see as an older man what it feels like to be living in a new world, basically, and you're surrounded with, modern stuff, telephones and radios and TV and everything like that, things that they didn't have, for most of his life beforehand. But now he's an old man, old enough to be his grandfather, and he lives in an apartment, and the neighbors are driving him nuts because they're young and they like music and that. But like I said, I think I think that's another reason why a lot of people probably didn't like Indiana Jones 5. Okay, let me go to a break. We'll be right back. Holy shit!
Come on, man!
Are you in? Yeah.
Go right over the fucking
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it. Write for Pollution Booklet, Box 1771, Radio City Station, New York.
That's fucked up.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it. It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
yeah, so reasons why audiences didn't really like this installment, I think, is because you got to remember, a lot of the people that like Indiana Jones are probably my age now, okay? And for them, the best times of the movies were the situation, the story takes place in and around World War II, okay? Because you had, you know, it was sort of like Star Wars in a way. You got the evil Nazi Empire and, you know, and the lone people fighting against it. Like, you know, in Star Wars, you got the Empire and the rebels and stuff like that. It kind of had that same setup, okay? And I think, you know, when my generation was in its teens and we were going to that film, it appealed to us on that level. And we already had sort of a like of Harrison Ford. But if you remember, that first movie did not come out in a big way. It took time for it to become a blockbuster. At first, it didn't really get an audience, okay? But they kept it in the theaters, and by word of mouth, it spread around that this film was good, okay? Which it reminds me of this film here. I think it's going to be by word of mouth that people are going to say, you need to go see this film. It's good. Because it is good, and it's not, they don't really focus so much on nostalgia. They don't just put Easter eggs every 5 seconds in the film like a lot of these things do. Okay, they have a few things in there, and you know, and they don't dwell on it to make you really think about it, but you know, it's sort of like, you know, it's done quickly, and then, you know, they move on with the story, so they don't focus so much on it, which I was glad they did, because I don't think Easter eggs and nostalgia really works that well in a film. It just seems to, you know, distract you from the point of the story. Okay, that's what I'm looking at. We don't need distractions, and so they don't do that too much in this film. But I think that the reason is that this film takes place in the '60s, and that doesn't look too retro enough for people. I guess they're just used to him being the guy that's always fighting the fucking Germans, which is why they brought the Nazi element back into this film, into this franchise, is because I think Disney figured, or whoever was making the story figured that this was kind of the better part of the franchise, the history of Indiana Jones, is when he's always fighting the Germans and stuff like that, okay? So they brought back this, and the only way they could do it was the Dial of Destiny, by creating some sort of a time travel thing, where he's fighting the Nazis again, only this time these are leftovers from the war that ended, and now you got these people wanting to go back in time and change history, rewrite history, basically. So so it's really dealing with the Nazis again. Okay, so even though which I knew at the time when they did that, that's the reason why they did it. So I said, okay, fine, fuck it, we'll ignore that. So we end up in the future, which for him is in the 1960s, and they didn't really focus so much, in like settings that made you think that it's the 60s. Okay, they had at the beginning, he's still professor. Okay, he's retiring, and he's fixing to leave. Okay, and then the story starts, and it sucks you right in, because they don't give you a chance to get a breather. That's what I liked about it, is that the minute the action starts, it's going. Okay, so when they did this, they immediately were going overseas to another country, Italy. A lot of it takes place in Italy. Okay, and so when you're in Italy in the 1960s, it still looks like the 1940s over there. Okay, so in that respect, I think that it gave the, how can I say it? Because they changed settings, because they went to a different country, because it's still old-fashioned over there looking. And of course, they've been to Italy before, when they were in the Last Crusade, in Venice and all that. So in this again, we're back into Italy and all that. And so it's sort of like, well, okay, so, we still feel like we're in World War II, okay? And I think, in that respect, I think maybe the audiences weren't so mad about it then. But I think at the very beginning, when they fast forward us from the end of World War II into the 1960s, well, we're going to see where he is today, or back then. Okay, you know what he's doing. So we're at the sort of the end of his career, the end of his last few years of his life or something, whatever you want to say. You can't do that without going into the present, you know. And so I can't understand why fans thought that was a bad idea. I mean, what are they going to do? Have Harrison Ford at 80-something years old still living through the fucking World War II era doing... I mean, come on. That's not realistic even for that kind of a franchise, okay? They do a lot of silly things, you know, to the character, you know, falling out of airplanes in a fucking rubber raft and, you know, surviving a nuclear explosion in a refrigerator. I mean, they do all these crazy things to this guy, but that would be going too far over the deep end, okay, by having him at that age. Okay, so, you know, the audiences have got to swallow the fact that each of these, well, not each movie, but just about every movie, there's like a 10-year gap. Because the last one, they were like in the 50s or something like that. Okay, in Indiana Jones 4. Okay, so naturally this one was going to take place in the 60s. Okay, so you know that's how they went with it. But as I said, I mean, I think that the film really does well to be part of the whole franchise. It really does. I think that it deserves its spot, you know, in the legacy of Indiana Jones. In a way, it kind of made me feel sad that it is probably going to be the last film, because, you know, it made you see like, well, Christ, there's potential here to do another one, because they didn't end it as a closure, okay, to Indiana Jones. The way they ended it still leaves the door open, okay, for possibly another adventure. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make another one, but they didn't end this movie in a way that was like a farewell to the fans or the audience. You know what I'm saying? They just wrapped it up like they did in every other fucking movie before that, okay? You don't know. But I doubt they'll do another one, okay, because of the response that the negative assholes put out there that, you know, convinced other people not to go see it, okay? And I think that's wrong, and there really ought to be something done about that, okay? I think that, you know, people shouldn't be allowed to comment before a movie comes out online or something. Because obviously that's kind of like slander, right? If you're slandering material, you can be sued for that, can't you? I mean, right? If I go out and I you know, bitch about some company, you know, and talk about how, you know, it's, you know, ruining people's lives and stuff like that and everything, but there's no evidence to back it up, okay? Because, you know, they haven't done it. But if I go around and say that, that's slander. Or if I go and do that to somebody and say that they're bad and all that, that's slander. So if people are going out there making their opinions based on a trailer or some clips they've seen in a commercial without having seen the whole film, I don't see why that can't be considered slander over property too. Because when I saw the film, I liked it. When they didn't even see the film and they hated it. They hated it. They had all the inside garbage, or supposedly the inside. I don't even know if they even had any or not. They could have made all that shit up about Kathleen Kennedy and all that stuff about this film, okay? I don't know where they got their information. None of these people ever say where they got this from, okay? They vaguely give you some kind of an idea of where they got it from, but they never say specifically who and where and where they got it from, okay? They never do that, okay? So I say that they deliberately, you know, smeared this film all over the place, and yet they say they're Indiana Jones fans, okay? Fans don't do that to stuff they like. They would have waited, just like I did, because I'm a fan of the Indiana Jones stuff, and I waited, and I was saying before, I'm not even going to tell you people whether it's going to be good or not, because I haven't seen it. It would not be fair for me to come out and tell you to go see a movie or not, unless I've seen it myself. Okay, I ain't gonna do that, because I don't think that's fair to the movie industry. Okay, I think that, you know, these trailers, like I said at the beginning of this film, they can be very deceiving, very misleading, because they pick and choose sections out of what they film, what they think audiences might like to see, okay, to get you to go watch it. But what we've done is we see it, now we nitpick it, okay? And those things are not meant to be nitpicked. They're just images or sections of what might happen, what's going to happen in this film, okay? And reasons to try to, you know, it's like dangling the carrot. You know, here we go, we're coming back with another thing, and look how action-packed it's going to be, and look at who the characters are going to be. They're not trying to tell you the story in a goddamn clip. Okay, that's the thing, is they're not trying to tell you the whole story. They're just giving you images, eye candy. Okay, we all know what that is, right? Clickbait. People shouldn't be suckered into clickbait. Okay, but yet you go on YouTube and you see all kinds of people just like me, you know, who are giving their opinions about stuff that they really don't know anything about, because what the information they're getting is coming from maybe second or third hand people, or maybe nobody at all. They're just making it up on their own. I mean, why does Doomcock wear a fucking mask? You know, he doesn't want to be identified because half the shit he says is probably all lies. Okay, so like I said, you know, if you didn't see this movie in the theater because of the reaction from what you saw from the critics and the people on the internet, go and see it. Okay, go and see it, and see it for yourself. Okay, and just forget about what they said. Watch the film as it is, and then when you're done watching it, then ask yourself, was it worth all the criticism? In my opinion, no. It doesn't deserve any of the criticism. Everybody in that movie, all the actors, they were good actors. They picked the right actors for the roles, as they always do. It was a good film. It was a very good film, and I'm really glad that it did so well, because it's a good final film in the franchise, if this is what it's intended to be. Okay, it just, like I said, how can I say? It was a nice closure, but you know, it didn't feel like so much a closure as they just wrapped it up like they did every other film before that. Okay, and so that made it feel like, yes, this is part of the whole thing, you know. And you know, they could do more Indiana Jones things. You know, we're going back to where he's young again or something like that. They'll obviously need a different actor, like they did when they did the TV show. And I like the TV show. I used to watch that. Not every episode in it was really good, but for the most part, it wasn't bad. I mean, I liked it. There was a lot of funny moments in it that I liked. But they could conceivably go back to that, you know, and do some more young Indiana Jones stuff. I mean, there's certainly a whole plethora of stories they could write about this character that, you know, it wouldn't be the end of it. It would, you know, it would just be the end of the sort of the timeline, basically, with everything going up to it. I certainly don't feel like they filled in all the gaps, because how many seasons was the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles? Was it two or three seasons? Okay, that certainly wasn't enough. You know, they could have done a whole lot more. And I don't think they did enough with him and his father in there to kind of, you know, make some sort of a, this is what his childhood was like, because it was always a story or an adventure that was kind of getting in the way, where, you know, you couldn't really see the, you know, the sort of angst he had, you know, where his father's always busy with his thing and Indiana Jones can't seem to get his dad's attention or something like that. You know, I don't know. I felt like maybe they could have done more with the family element before they got into his older years, where he's fighting in World War I, I think. And, you know, it's just, you know, there was a lot of potential there to add more into that, which, you know, hopefully maybe they'll think about doing now that we have all these streaming services and Disney's got theirs. And, but I don't know. The way things are right now, I don't know when they'll ever go back or revisit Indiana Jones, the character, ever again. So I don't know. But like I said, be fair to yourself. Don't miss this one, okay? It's a good film, okay? And like I said, you know, you'll find that there's still humor in it, you know, like they did in the previous ones. You know, it borrows a little of the, like I said at the beginning, the friction between him and another character. And they also have a kid in this. It's sort of like, remember in Temple of Doom, where he had a sidekick kid? Well, Phoebe's got a sidekick kid, and you know, he's kind of funny in this. So you know, there's a lot of things, and there's a scene where they're racing through Italy on a fucking motorcycle with two wheels in the back, you know, and it's got they used it in a James Bond film once. It's, what do they call it, a tac-tac or something like that? I can't remember, but anyway, it's funny as hell, the friggin' race they go through that thing. I mean, it's worth. I mean, I'm gonna watch it again. I mean, that's how good it was. I'm gonna watch it again because I really liked it, and it was funny. I laughed, you know, and I got serious, and I almost cry, you know. But it's really fun. It's a really fun movie, and I think it, like the last one, it deserved better than it got from the critics, and I think this is the same thing. People, I guess, they get too focused on nostalgia, where they go into a theater and they want it to be just like the way it was when they were kids in the 80s and stuff like that. Well, you can't do that. You can't bring it back in that fashion, okay? If you want to stay, you know, honest to your character, and you want to have some sort of integrity to the lineage of movies, you're going to have to go with that. You're going to have to change, you know, as it goes. I mean, you know, one of the things about, I'm going to pick up James Bond, okay, is that in each movie, he doesn't seem to really advance one way or the other. He's always kind of James Bond, you know. They kind of deprive you of seeing him age over time, okay? So his character doesn't really change. You just have different actors who have their take on James Bond, so that's what you get to see for change, is how is this guy going to play James Bond, or how's that guy going to change James Bond. The one thing I did like about the Daniel Craig era is that you did get to see something of that, of where he was younger when he first started in the MI6, and when he's finally sort of at the end of his career at MI6, and you get to see that, you know, Daniel Craig's take on James Bond is a little different now at the end, because he's not so reckless and so pig-headed and stuff. You know, he's a veteran of the MI6, and you know, so he's kind of had it up to here with that, and you know what I'm saying. Well, that's kind of like what we were seeing with this movie here, with Dial of Destiny. Is we're at the end of his time chasing around ancient things, and you know, he really wants to just, you know, kick back and enjoy his elder years. But the world doesn't seem to want him to kick back. There's always something coming his way, and you know, and his nature of wanting to see what these things are, his curiosity, always seems to win over, okay? And so anyway, I think I'll end this video here at this point and say, you know, I hope you people will change your minds, those that have already made up their minds whether they're going to watch this film or not, or those who already made up their mind that it was going to be a rotten movie. I hope you can be man enough or woman enough to say I was wrong. Okay, this film wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Okay, and but if you still think that it was bad and not to your liking, okay, I guess, you know, they can't sell you. But in my opinion, the criticism and what I saw doesn't match. It does not match at all. What you guys are nitpicking about in this film, just, it wasn't a problem as far as I'm concerned. It was the logical flow of the story. Okay, it wasn't mistakes of the writers. It didn't have anything to do with Kathleen Kennedy. Okay, this movie was, you know, in the same integrity as the rest of the films that were made, and that's why I liked it. Okay, didn't see any of this woke stuff that you guys are always bitching about on there. Didn't see any of that. Okay, they stayed it true to the 1960s and all that. Okay, so forget it. You're not going to get me to side with you on that argument. Okay, and so hopefully you guys will give it a shot and watch it, okay? Because I don't think you're going to regret it. It's a movie you don't want to get up and go grab something to eat and come back, because you might miss something that's important. Pause it and do that, and then come back and start. You know, don't miss a second of it, because it's important. It's a lot of things go on in this film. A lot of information being thrown around and stuff you got to pick up on as the story goes, otherwise you're not going to know what the hell they're doing. Okay, so Yeah, go see the film. You'll like it. I'll talk to you all later.